Join the conversation by commenting live on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. This is the Fifth Chapter with Dennis Fithian and Brian Chapman. He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, but people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fifth Chapter. Brian Chapman, Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fifth Chapter. That's right, and welcome to the Fifth Chapter. I am Brian Chapman. He is Dennis Fithian. We're ready and raring to go for episode 50. That's right, 50 episodes here on the Fifth Chapter.
Yeah, it's a Halloween edition of the Fifth Chapter there, Chap. I see that you're dressed up as a champ.
That's right. I got my 2016 Big Ten Championship t-shirt on. I got my road Penn State jersey in the background, my home Penn State jersey in the background. I'm ready for the Ohio State game. I just don't know if my Nittany Lions are. And it looks like you're a cowboy.
You're right, partner. You know what? I'm not planning on talking with a southern accent the whole time, but I might slip in a little bit. If I was flexible enough, I could really show you the whole outfit. I got some Wranglers on and some cowboy boots, but that's it. I don't know what they call those little things with the shoelaces on there, but
I think that's just a cowboy tie.
Cowboy tie. Yeah, I don't have one of those, but I had a brown tie, so I put it on. So this is my outfit for tonight. I
can tell you this right here, Dennis. I'm a little bit disappointed that you ain't gonna talk like a cowboy from the deep south for the entirety of the show. I think you can do it.
Well, I can do a better job than that.
Come on now, Fith. You know I sound just like I'm from Fayetteville, Arkansas, or Fayetteville, North Carolina. If I talk like this for the entire show, come on now.
Yeah, well, if you put on a red shirt, you might be able to pass for an Ohio State fan. I'll give you that.
I'll tell you this right here. I'm not trying to pass for no deep south Buckeye. That's right. Now, let me tell you this right here. I want to thank everybody out there with a non-Southern accent for tuning into episode 50, and for all you guys who have been there since the first episode, since the 5th episode, since the 30th episode, or whenever you tuned in. Perhaps this is your first show. Thanks to all who are watching on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch, and also to those who are listening to the podcast, whether it's via Apple, whether it's via Google, or Spotify. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and participate in each show by sending in your comments via Facebook or YouTube. Dennis will be reading those throughout the show, perhaps with, perhaps without a cowboy voice. Let's take a look at today's book. In the second chapter, Kevin Cash benched, pulled, yanked Blake Snell during the middle of Game 2 when he was dealing after he gave up one hit and his Rays lost Game 6. Was that the right move following the analytics? In the third chapter, how should Justin Turner be punished for violating Major League Baseball's COVID-19 guidelines? He was pulled from game 6 after the 7th inning after it was ruled that he tested positive for coronavirus. Then he returned to the field to celebrate without a mask. In the 4th chapter, the Lions play the Colts this weekend, trying to get their 3rd straight win. Should fans root for a win or a loss?
That's a big one.
And actually that makes sense, because what do Cowboys ride sometimes? Colts. And in the 5th chapter, it's the major wager. But Dennis, let's start off with, as you might expect, the 1st chapter. And that takes us to Michigan versus Michigan State. And if I'm not mistaken, this is yesterday was one of the first days we've had, if not the first day we've had, without college or without any pro sports or any college sports or anything like that since the Jacob Blake protest. But we're getting back together for sports tonight with Thursday Night Football. We got Big Ten football tomorrow, Maryland, Minnesota, and then we start back up on the weekend with Saturday and Sunday weekend of football. Michigan State, the big one around here. Number 13 Michigan, unranked Michigan State. Wolverines 1-0, Spartans 0-1 in Mel Tucker's debut in the big in-state rivalry for the Paul Bunyan Trophy. Michigan's a 24-point favorite after beating Minnesota by 25. Michigan State's trying to bounce back after committing 7 turnovers and an 11-point loss to Rutgers. One technique that Mel Tucker is using perhaps to motivate his team is providing a nickname for Michigan, which we'll get to in a bit. But in terms of X's and O's, what you expect on the field, Dennis, what do you expect from the Wolverines and Spartans in their second games of the season in this big rivalry matchup?
Yeah, I don't Michigan State after watching that opener. I don't know how anybody could. I do expect a continuation of what we saw in Minneapolis for Michigan. Man, they looked really good. And, it's so encouraging that you almost go overboard, and make it sound like they're ready to, play the national championship right now. But it was a very promising opener there for the Wolverines. I loved what Joe Milton did, surprised at how good the offense, how agile and tough the offensive line good, how well the offensive line did. The wide receivers, they got a lot of them, and they got a lot of running backs too. The offense overall was a big surprise. And you know what? The defense, they got to clean up some things. It'd be nice to see what did State average? 1.8 or something?
1.3 yards a carry.
1.3? I gave them.
Yeah.
Look out. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty telling.
That's about as delicious as that spit that you just had come out your mouth.
The thing about those turnovers is that you watch that game, it's like they lit that ball on fire and then started handing it to the Michigan State backs like they wanted no part of it. Look, I don't know if Mel Tucker even knows, the names of his team, of the players there. He barely had any time to work with them. D'Antonio put him in a bad spot. But even all of that being said, they lost to Rutgers. So what am I supposed to say? I think they're going to get their clocks cleaned. I'll give Michigan State credit if they're able to find the stadium and they show up to play, because the way things are going with cancellation and no contest, I know Michigan State fans, after watching that first game, they're ready for the season to be canceled. I think they half wishing, look, maybe we can just go ahead and we can give our false positives right now. I think a lot of Michigan State fans are thinking that they're ready. They're pretty positive.
Give them a super spreader event.
Well, that they don't want to watch their team play, and I'll give them credit if they stay and watch the entire thing. But yeah, I mean, you can't have any stories that are on different sides here. I can't imagine that there's any Michigan State fans that are feeling good about themselves at all. And Michigan's feeling sky high right now. So sometimes if you're I've heard from some of my state friends that it just can't be any worse. So we got Michigan maybe right where we want them, as overconfident as they possibly could be by losing to Rutgers. And that was a hell of a ploy to go out and lose to Rutgers to make Michigan feel really overconfident. But I'll tell you what, they are feeling really overconfident.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like my dad telling me last week during the Penn State-Ohio State game, when all Penn State was doing was running up the gut for 3 yards and then dinking and dunking passing for 5 yards. Well, they just don't want to show anything to Ohio State. Dad, they have to beat Indiana first. No, this is not there was nothing that they were trying to hide for the Michigan game, but this is going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be one of the uglier games in this rivalry. Especially in terms of Michigan winning. Obviously, one of the ugliest games I can remember in terms of this rivalry period was the game when Michigan ran for negative 68 yards or whatever it was against the Spartans in Michigan Stadium about 7-8 years ago. But look, Michigan's a top 15 team. Michigan State's a bottom 15 team, and they're rivals, so Michigan's going to want to put the hurting on them. I don't think the Spartans are going to turn it over 7 times. But they also might not score in double figures. And if Rutgers can throw a transfer quarterback in and light them up with 38 points, thanks to 7 turnovers, but still light them up with 38 points, Michigan could score 58 points. I think that some of the numbers when you look at the Michigan State-Rutgers game show that the turnovers really skewed how the results could have been had it not been for that many turnovers with 5 fumbles. Michigan State actually had 90 more total yards. They had 7 more first downs than Rutgers. But I still think if you look at what's going to happen in this game, given that they had 2 interceptions, given that they held onto the ball actually less reliably than slippery finger tight end Eric Ebron, there's going to be at least 3 Spartans turnovers, bare minimum. Could be 4, 5, 6. I don't think 7, but 3 to 6 turnovers. You look at the 1.3 yards per attempt that they had against Rutgers. I think that they'll certainly be under 2 yards per carry against Michigan because Michigan has a better front 7. And what does that mean? That means if they're getting in 3rd and long, Rocky Lombardi is going to be forced to air it out. And if it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 12, and he's got to air it out, that means there's going to be sack fumbles. That means there's going to be interceptions. That means there's going to be 3 and outs. And whether it's a short field or a long field, it's going to be a long day for Michigan State. I don't see any path to victory for Michigan State in this game.
Well, Mel Tucker doesn't even know the path to Ann Arbor. He was talking about it. We're heading on up there, partner. We're heading up yonder. What are you talking about? It's actually it's south, Mel. So he'll figure out those directions. Either that, or he'll end up playing Northern Michigan. So I think he'd probably rather play the Wildcats. But you know what? Northern Michigan might be licking their chops if they showed up there after their performance against Rutgers. So yeah, I mean the joke's on Michigan State. It's it's all maize and blue. I'm half expecting Michigan State not to show up. If they do that, they show up, I'll give them credit for doing that.
Yeah, and speaking of Mel Tucker, the one thing I was thinking about for could the Spartans have a shot is that last year at Colorado, he proved that he can coach well in rivalry games because 2 of Colorado's biggest rivals are Colorado State and Nebraska. He played those 2 teams in the first 2 games of the year and beat both of those teams. And he also beat a ranked team on the road, which is what Michigan is, when he took the Buffaloes to Arizona State and beat the Sun Devils. So can he do that? I don't think so, but I think a lot of folks didn't expect Colorado to beat Arizona State last year. Can they come close? I don't think so, but this is his first opportunity in a rivalry game. And like I said, last year, he was good in those rivalry games. One thing that obviously a lot of folks like to look at when they see a new coach coming into a rivalry game is, does this coach understand the rivalry? One thing that stands out to me is I remember when Backwoods Rich Rod came from West Virginia to Michigan, everyone asked him about the importance of the Ohio State-Michigan game, and he said, it's just like West Virginia-Pitt. Now, in southwestern Pennsylvania and in West Virginia, a lot of people care about that rivalry.
That's a big one.
But around here, nobody cares about West Virginia and Pitt. I reckon nobody cares about West Virginia and Pitt. When it comes to Mel Tucker, obviously he used to be an assistant coach for Michigan State, so you figure he would get it. And I think this week he tried to prove that he understands the rivalry and hates Michigan by unveiling a new nickname. But I think all he really did was ensure that he gave a nickname to himself. Here is what he said while speaking to the dishonest media earlier this week.
I don't think there's any question from anyone who we're playing this week. And so it's the school down the road. I think we all know who that is. And so, I just think I think it's pretty obvious.
When you talk about trying to motivate the fan base, the school down the road, a lame nickname. And once again, I'll play this for you guys once again. Listen to how sleepy Mel Tucker sounds when he tries to diss Michigan by calling them the school down the road.
I don't think there's any question from anyone who we're playing this week. And so it's the school down the road. I think we all know who that is. And so, I just think I think it's pretty obvious. I don't think there's any question from anyone who.
Dennis, this is about as sorry and sad as it gets. He's trying to motivate the fan base, perhaps give them a little something to go viral, and he comes out, he could barely stay awake. People want to talk about sleepy Joe Biden. How about sleepy Mel Tucker right there? I think everybody knows who they are. Oh, crap, let me think of a cute nickname. I can't use the team up north. A school down the road. Yeah, we're ready for them. We know who they are. Michigan is in the name Michigan State. You can say that name. You can't do the same thing that the Buckeyes do. Just a terrible attempt to motivate the fan base, to motivate his players by trying to come up with some nickname like that, a sorry nickname, and doing it while half falling asleep.
Yeah, well, I reckon that if the Spartans really don't want to watch this game or play in this game, they can just go ahead and head on home and let Scott Frost's team. He'd be happy to come on up to Ann Arbor. They know the way, and they could play the game. And I think maybe Mel Tucker really wants that. Remember this, Mel Tucker, MSU had to fatten up his contract and give him an extra year or two because everybody coming in here looked at the roster and was like, oh, we want to be the worst team besides Rutgers in the Big Ten? You better pay me. Mel Tucker got an extra $5-6 million just because of what Mark D'Antonio left him in the way that he did. So, you know what? This game is about Mark D'Antonio, the beloved coach at Michigan State, leaving his beloved university a big pile of crap and having Mel Tucker, have to clean it up. And they paid him well to do that. But it's going to be unforgiving for Michigan State if they have to play games this year. And, again, their fans don't want to watch. Their team doesn't want to play in any of the games. They hope there's a bunch of no contests. But if they have to go out there, teams are going to kick their ass.
Yeah.
And you know what? I felt it as a Michigan fan over the years. It's not like teams are over there taking it easy on them. And I don't think Michigan's going to take it easy on them come Saturday either. If they're not hanging on to the
what
ball,
about I think you're right, especially when they put the bulletin board material up of Mel Tucker calling them the team down the road. I mean, you get called the team down the road, and that's something that you're going to remember forever. I can't believe Mel Tucker's calling us the team down the road. I mean, honestly, he should have just stuck with little sister. Like, Michigan calls Michigan State little brother. Michigan State fans like to come back at them by calling them little sister. It would have been a heck of a lot better if Mel Tucker, first of all, didn't have the energy of a 90-year-old. But number two, went on there and said, hey, we know that we're about to play little sister this weekend. We're going to prove to them who's the bigger sibling in this rivalry. We're going to take it to little sister as opposed to, I think everybody knows who we're playing. Team down the road.
Well, partner, one thing you've got to show him is just how stout his football team can be. Because the one thing about D'Antonio, as much as I didn't like him, that first State would get close and they would play hard, but then they would lose right at the end. And that's when Hart gave him the old, it's like snatching the football away from your little brother, man. Mm-hmm. And that burned State fans so much. Like right now, State fans looking at Mel Tucker like, what the hell? We don't want this guy. Our program's in a shambles, right? He's got a couple years where they just should put their hard hats on, not worrying about any down the road or pert near up there. Just play the game, walk out with your hat in your hand because you're going to get your ass kicked, and then try to build something where you can make these games competitive. You just lost to Rutgers, so mm-hmm. Michigan State. I can't believe that any Michigan State fan would show their face this week. I don't know why they would. I mean, I think they hope the games are canceled and that they can just go ahead and they can't wait to basketball season, of course.
Well, and
I think they would rather not watch the games.
I think they're also looking forward to the Michigan State game so they can earn the Maryland game, hoping they can win that one and get a hat for a program win. We have some feedback?
You know what, partner? We do.
All right. Well, I reckon we should get to it.
DJ Major says Dennis needs a jean jacket and he'll look like Bum Phillips. Oh, now Bum Phillips, the old Oilers coach, and I think maybe Saints coach there for a minute. DJ, that's a good one. I'm old Bum Phillips. I like it. Adam likes the hat. And speaking of the worst in crap, that hat, go blue. That's from Paul. These are all on Facebook as I look at it. And here we go. When it comes down, can I blow up? No, I can't. I have to put on my spectacles. Keith says, happy 50th to the 5th chapter. Hey, thank you very much. I think I only missed one episode. Who that wearing a cowboy hat and who that going to beat them Cowboys? Everybody. U of M should destroy MSU. This is from Keith. But I can't believe the Lions beat Arizona, so you never know in sports when you least expect it, the beauty of sports, like Gibson's home run against Eck. I still remember not believing what I just saw. It was his last at bat in the series, or first at bat in the series, to set the tone for the whole series. I know I'm way off track. Give the guy a break, chap. He just got there. He does sound tired, and maybe he is. He seems like a good guy, and hopefully he turns out to be a real good coach.
Well, hopefully he's sleepy because he's been tirelessly working at ways to improve the football team and beat Michigan. But based on what I saw on Saturday against Rutgers, he's been sleeping well, and he has been doing enough preparation for his team. Well, once again, like I said on Tuesday, Greg Schiano was tirelessly going out, getting transfer players, 17 of them, and he got his Rutgers team that left the cupboard bare a double-digit win. Meanwhile, he went in there, sleepy Mel Tucker. Oh, I can be sleepy and just go in there, don't even have to coach and beat Rutgers, and then they get smoked. Look, this it's not a good look to get smoked by Rutgers in your first game and then look sleepy in your press conference afterwards. And I'm not giving him any slack. If this was the first game this past weekend and it was against, let's say, Iowa, and they lost by 11 points, no big deal. But this is Rutgers, no Big Ten win since 2017. You don't get a pass for that. This just means that you're a bad head coach, and Michigan State fans should wonder if they have the right coach in charge.
It's like the David Allen Cole says, I was drunk the day my mom got out of prison, and I went to pick her up in my pickup truck in the rain. But before he could get there, I don't remember the rest, but it's the best country and Western song. So look it up.
I'll take your word for it. You ready to turn the page to the second chapter?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Yes.
Oh, well, that gets us to, oh, man, I can't wait for this chapter. The Dodgers won the World Series for the first time. Keith had just mentioned it. Back there in 1988, we got 32 years they won it, but everybody's talking about what happened there in Game 6 with Blake Snell, or as you call him, old baggy eyes, Snell.
That's right.
Or as I was calling him as he pitched here in the World Series, Sandy Koufax. He's rolling, and then for some reason, Kevin Cash, the Rays manager, goes out there and moseys on up to the mound, and went out there and pulled out his pistol and shot him down and lassoed him up and hog-tied him and took him out there and put him in the dugout. What happened?
Well, here is what happened according to Kevin Cash when he was asked by the dishonest media afterwards why he decided to take Blake Snell out.
You guys try to be consistent, but can you explain what went into the decision to take out Blake? Was it something you saw? Was it a plan to limit him to 2 times through, or what was your motive there?
No, I mean the only motive was that the lineup the Dodgers feature is as potent as any team in the league. Personally, I felt Blake had done his job and then some. Mookie coming around for the 3rd time through. I value that. I totally respect and understand the questions that come with it. Blake gave us every opportunity to win. He was outstanding. They're not easy decisions. And that's where I came to the decision. I felt it was best after the guy got on base. Barnes hit the single. Didn't want Mookie or Seager seeing Blake a 3rd time.
So when you have a manager talking about I don't want him to see Mookie or Blake a 3rd time, that obviously refers to analytics, because the analytics say that after 2 times through the order, the numbers get a heck of a lot better for the offense and a heck of a lot worse for the pitchers. I was actually looking at an article from Twins Daily from September 2018 about the numbers as you get further or deeper into a game. And they got numbers from Baseball Reference that said that the first time through an order, a Major League pitcher's ERA is 4.08. Second time is 4.20. Third time is 4.57. So that's a pretty big jump. Obviously, Blake Snell's numbers would be lower because he's better than an average pitcher. And I get not one at the top of the order up with a man on when your numbers get worse like that. But what I think about the situation, which obviously didn't work for the Rays, is first of all, I disagree with what Kevin Cash did because I would have left Blake Snell on the mound. One hit in the inning, and you're facing Mookie Betts a third time was not a good enough reason for me to believe that you remove your ace when he's pitching so well. It's not like he'd given up 5 runs already. He'd given up 1 run, and Mookie Betts is coming to the plate. Not a good enough reason. But I will say this. I understand why they made the move, and I'm not going to be as critical as so many other people are when it comes to taking Blake Snell out of the game, because that's what got the Rays to the World Series in the first place. Like, Dennis, when you use your eye tests and you look at the talent on the Tampa Bay Rays roster, and you don't think about using heavy analytics, you just use traditional baseball metrics to assess the Rays based on the eye test, how many wins do you think they should have gotten in a 60-game season?
Yeah, well, I think that's a very good point. But I think the one thing about analytics, I mean, it's a very useful tool. And I think to play 162 games this year, they didn't have to play that many, but I think that's very useful, for a team with such a low payroll and to be able to overachieve and get all the way to the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to win a championship, and you already mentioned it, you got your big gun out there, and how the game was going here, there wasn't going to be a lot of runs scored. None of it made sense. I fall in the category of that's one of the worst moves that I've ever seen in a big spot in sports history. You can pull up a chair right along Brady Little when he was back there in the 2003 ALCS, when he left Pedro out there with 123 pitches against the Yankees. I was screaming at my TV then. I was screaming at my TV the other night. Then I had to go start looking through the numbers. And you know what? Like, I watched it. It was like, he owns Mookie Betts. Like, if Mookie Betts had squared him up, like if Cash would have been over there and said, yeah, we know the third time through, but you know what? Mookie Betts, even though he made outs, boy, he really squared him up. He struck him out. And then if you said, well, we just had our Anderson who's just been lights out, we wanted to get him in there as a right-hander.
Mm-hmm.
Anderson has been a gas can.
Yes.
And the other thing, if you look up, like the righty-lefty thing, Mookie Betts can't hit the left-handers. It's an anomaly, but look at the OPS numbers from him this year. None of it made sense. It was dumb in a big spot. It's not all about the numbers. If you're just going to sit there and wear a pocket protector and do everything by the book, well, just put a computer up there. Let's not have Cash. That's ridiculous. If I was there's no Tampa fans that are going to say anything. They don't go to the ball games or do anything.
Correct.
I'll tell you what, if that was the Tigers, I would not want him back as the manager.
No. This is a team that, like I said, in a 60-game season, they probably had about 30 to 32 win talent. Excellent pitching, but the offense wasn't that good, and they milked that based on the analytics to 40 wins, the best record in baseball.
Pitches, Chad. You know what?
I get that.
I hope that, you know what, they play the game that way, they're going to ruin the game. Playing the analytics that way. They're never going to win in a big spot.
They might ruin the game.
That's the highest they'll ever get.
They might ruin the game, but they got all the way to the World Series. Meanwhile, other teams that weren't playing it that way, that said, hey, let's stick with our ace, teams that had a heck of a lot more talent, teams that weren't looking at the analytics to get an edge here, 5% margin there, 6% margin here by doing this shift or putting 4 outfielders out there or yanking the pitcher early, they didn't get as far as the Rays got. So I'm not going to argue that it was the wrong decision, because I think it was the wrong decision. I would have left him out there, but I get it. Over the long haul, the analytics work, but there are certain instances where you might make the quote-unquote right decision and it won't work. And I think that in this instance, based on the analytics, it was the right decision and it didn't work. I think that the bigger problem was, number one, putting in Nick Anderson was the wrong choice in terms of a reliever. And number two, they scored 1 run. Now, if you're making an analytic decision based on your pitching, you have to expect that you're going to score more than 1 run in a game, or else no matter what you do when it comes to pitching, changes and things like that, you're not going to win in the first place. They gave up 3 runs for the entirety of the game. So when you look at the entire game plan as a whole, you might not give it an A+, but you should give it perhaps an A- in terms of pitching decisions. The problem was they scored 1 run. And you score 1 run, you're going to lose 95% of the time.
Yeah, and I think this shows you where analytics, you can poke holes in it, and it's not the be-all, end-all. They're always looking at, just what kind of sample size that you got. It's different once you get into the postseason. It's different in the World Series. Analytic guys like Mike Trout or Miguel Cabrera, you look at all this. Miguel Cabrera in September with the Tigers in a pennant chase, went crazy in September, carried the Tigers, ended up getting into the postseason. Meanwhile, Trout was out there almost hitting like below the Mendoza line, but they're like, well, over the long haul, partner, analytics show bull crap.
Trout's been better than Miggy since he's entered baseball. Period.
He wasn't that year, and you
Yes.
know what? He wasn't in September, and he did not deserve the Triple Crown. That's one of the problems with analytics. And the other one is here, it's the same thing where you get into these big spots. You know what? All these analytic people are always trying to tell you, like, ninth inning now, no so fast. Ninth inning's not all that big. It's more about the seventh and, the eighth and who you're facing. The pressure doesn't mean anything to nerds. And you know what? That's great for math people that you sit behind the desk and everything, but pressure doesn't mean anything to them. And, they always just like that. They come back and say, well, you math. That's all they always like say, math. Well, you know what? You have to learn a little bit about competition.
Well, if the Rays had stuck with that mentality, I doubt that they would have.
Blunders. Let me ask you this, chap. What if that was Justin Verlander on the mound in 2006 and he had 73 pitches and he was at 5 1/3? You just going to come out there, mosey on out there and grab the ball from Verlander?
No, like I said, I think it was the wrong decision. I think they should have left Blake Snell out there. One runner on base and Mookie Betts coming up after pitching so well throughout the game was not a good enough reason to do it despite the analytics. But I understand why they did it because time and time again throughout the regular season and the postseason, they had done that, and it led to the best record in the American League. It led to the number 1 seed, and it led them to winning 2 of the first 5 games in the World Series. So to that point, their recipe, despite having significantly less talent than the Dodgers, despite having significantly less talent than the Yankees and some other teams in the American League, it panned out. So I get why they would not want to stray from their recipe. That's what you think of that. What do the viewers think of that?
Let's see if they have anything to say. But nobody watches baseball. Nobody was watching the World Series. Let's see. The people are watching, but they're not commenting in on the World Series. They know it was a joke.
Okay. Well.
What do you want? You want a bunch of math guys getting on here talking about you guys better crunch the numbers.
Well, I would like to see the Tigers do that. I would like to see the Tigers crunch the numbers because guess what? Going off of the raw talent that Al Avila sees hasn't been working. I was looking at the ESPN's way too early 2021 power rankings. They're the 3rd worst in baseball. They have the 3rd worst record in baseball this year. They have the worst record by far last year. So not using analytics or whatever analytics the Tigers are using has not panned out whatsoever. Empty out the Tigers front office and bring in the Rays. I'd be in favor of that.
You'd be in favor of bringing back Jim Leland, the Sox, or bringing back Tony La Russa?
Yeah, I don't get that. Maybe the Tigers should dig up the grave of Earl Weaver and put him out there. Yeah,
wow.
Hey.
It is Halloween.
Yeah, that's right. Put a ghost out there, a skeleton.
Put a skeleton. Yeah. I'm with it.
All right. Well, a lot of folks may not have watched Game 6, but I think a lot more at least heard about what transpired during Game 6 at the end, and certainly what happened during the celebration afterwards, and that's how we turn the page to the 3rd chapter. It's Justin Turner, the 3rd baseman of the Dodgers, and I want to give everybody a timeline of what transpired in Game 6 of the World Series. A lot of folks are wondering, why did Justin Turner lead the game? Was he injured or something like that? Well, here's an excerpt from an article from the Sporting News, which somehow still exists. And on Monday, Justin Turner and the rest of the Dodgers partake in their daily spit test for COVID-19. On Tuesday, which was during Game 6 of the World Series, Major League Baseball received word that Turner's Monday test came back with an inconclusive result, and baseball said, hey, fast-track the Tuesday results. So they fast-tracked the Tuesday result in the lab in Utah, and that came back positive. Baseball relayed the message to the Dodgers, and before the 8th inning began, Turner was told to isolate after being removed from the game. And then after the game, Turner is seen on Globe Life Field celebrating and taking pictures with teammates about an hour after the Dodgers won the World Series. In some shots, Turner is correctly wearing his mask. In others, it's wrapped below his chin. And we do have footage to share with you. There you can see Justin Turner in the dugout afterwards. He's got his mask on. Look at him touching this old man, giving him a hug, giving all these people different hugs. There's women and wives. There he goes, hugging somebody else's wife or hugging his wife, giving them hugs and things like that, touching everybody he can. Oh, let me touch this person. I got Rona. Yeah, come here, give me a big hug. Rona, 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 Rona. Then as we move along, you see him come out of the dugout with his wife. He's sitting for the team picture. Hey, at least he's got his mask on right there. He's following at least some of the guidelines, but not socially distancing. Not socially distancing whatsoever. Oh, there he goes, pulling off his mask, sitting right next to 48-year-old manager Dave Roberts. Oh, he just takes the mask off altogether, not just below his chin so he can breathe Rona out there. And there he is, standing next to his wife, holding the trophy, or the chunk of metal, as Rob Manfred likes to call it, spreading Rona all over the chunk of metal. And then he's going to give coronavirus to his wife right there. Look at that. Putting coronavirus right down her throat. I mean, just everything you could do that's wrong, Justin Turner did in terms of following the coronavirus protocol. Major League Baseball released a statement afterwards, and I'll blow it up so that you can see it at least a little bit better. But it says, immediately upon receiving notice from the laboratory of a positive test, protocols were triggered, leading to the removal of Justin Turner from last night's game. Turner was placed into isolation for the safety of those around him. However, following the Dodgers' victory, it is clear that Turner chose to disregard the agreed upon joint protocols and the instructions he was given regarding the safety and protection of others. While a desire to celebrate is understandable, Turner's decision to leave isolation and enter the field was wrong and put everyone he came in contact with at risk. When MLB security raised the matter of being on the field with Turner, he emphatically refused to comply. Emphatically refused to comply. Now, I don't know how they think about things out in the old West, Dennis, but I have to imagine that there is law and order, and someone would be out there from MLB security with a draw, and they blow him away. But Dennis, what did you think about that whole episode on Tuesday, and what punishment, if any, do you think Justin Turner deserves? Perhaps a drawing and quartering? What do you expect?
Yeah, I think you got to go 10 paces at dawn, shoot him down, like the old ginger beard freak he is. Now, I thought that it was a very selfish move by Justin Turner. You know what? And Dave Roberts, and I know the rest of the Dodgers are out there, gave the blessing, but that doesn't matter. You know, the Dave Roberts is a cancer survivor. You know what? If it was all with his teammates and the manager stayed away, that would still be something where it was a selfish move. As baseball does have a responsibility with America, even though everybody was sleeping and nobody was watching the World Series anyways, they do have a responsibility to see that thing through. And if you do, like, only the most extreme people in America are like, no, let's not wear masks and let's hug everybody and let's kiss everybody. And even if somebody has an underlying condition, let's go ahead and hug them. Even the most extreme people are not like that. So, you know what? I think that I'm not going to get in like the baseball needs to fine him or suspend him and everything else. I think his punishment is just what he did to society there. And we all saw it. And, we're at a time here where even though it was the greatest moment of his life there, he had a responsibility to his manager, who is a cancer survivor, to stay out. And you know what? For Dave Roberts and for people that do have underlying conditions, you need to stay away from people like Turner. And it shows you there's a lot of people out there that don't have regard for other people's health, even if they're telling you, hey, I'm all right, it's an issue. So it was sad. It ruined the World Series for the Dodgers. It ruined the baseball season. They did a great job getting to that point, but he ruined it at the end. But I'm not getting up there and talking about any suspension or anything else. You know, he just has to deal with life and how, how he treated this and how he acted. He'll have to live with that forever.
Yeah, I don't think that's good enough. Tom Verducci of Sports Illustrated was at the game, and he knew why Justin Turner got removed from World Series Game 6. He's one of the best reporters, I think he's a Hall of Fame baseball reporter, and he went to Penn State. He's 63 years old. He said that when he saw Justin Turner on the field after the game, he immediately left the field because he didn't want to put himself at risk. He didn't want to put others at risk, whatever the case may be. And that should not be the case where media members feel they have to leave because there's a dangerous man running around the field with coronavirus who is, it wasn't even like he was saying, hey, give me 6 feet, let me touch the World Series trophy, let me hold it, and then you guys can spray it down, and then I can be socially distanced like 12, 15 feet away from everybody and still be around. He was going around touching people, not just his wife, as you can see right there. He's sneaking coronavirus down her throat. He was going around hugging other people, hugging all the older people, hugging other people's wives and all that stuff, giving them coronavirus so they can take it home to their husbands and things like that. This was like the height of selfishness, the height of lack of caring for anybody. I get that he wants to celebrate, but when you have a deadly disease, unfortunately you can't do that. You need to stay in quarantine. He deserves to be suspended for 30 days, and he needs to get a pretty significant fine. He's a free agent, so whatever team signs him, they're going to have to be without him until May of 2021 or whenever they decide to sign him. You can't just go around willy-nilly putting folks potentially in the ICU. I mean, how selfish do you have to be? I'm not married, but you are. How selfish do you have to be to know that you have coronavirus and then say, hey, come here, wife, let me sneak some coronavirus down your throat? I can't imagine that you would want to be making out. Like, I get making out with your wife's a great thing. Can't you wait a couple of weeks until you don't have it anymore to protect her? I know not everybody gets sick, but Raquel Armstead from the Jacksonville Jaguars is 23 years old. He hasn't played a game this year. He's not going to play it all this year because he has coronavirus complications. Would you want to put your wife through something like this? He deserves to be punished for what he did on the baseball field. And in terms of anything else, I don't know. Obviously, his wife didn't care about getting Rona, but he deserves a month and he deserves a fine.
Yeah, it was a selfish move, but you know what?
Plus, he decided he was not going to obey MLB security. I mean,
you know what? It goes to show you that during this pandemic, there's an awful lot of people that they don't feel like this is all that big of a deal. I mean, that's what that told to me. I don't know if you can see it any other way. Like, you know, there are a lot of people that feel like Turner too. It's like, come on, man, let's just get on with life. Let's just get back. Let's go to the games. Let's go to the restaurants. These high numbers, we're just testing, and let's let it go like that. You know, go hide under your covers. There's a lot of people that feel like that, and obviously he's one of them. But I thought it was a selfish move. A couple of the feedbacks here. Andy says that Beard works as a mask. He wants the Rays to fire Cash, and then the Tigers can grab him.
I'll take
and
that.
Let's see, how bad was that Turner stunt? He should be gone for the entire season. No pay as well. Andy comes back. This is my favorite one. His punishment should be to play for the Tigers next season.
That's a good one.
And Paul asked, though, what if people die because of what he did? Well, yeah, well, there you go, Paul. Yeah, what if people die? That's the one. That's the one where we're actually hoping that doesn't. We don't have to have any backlash like that. But you know, a cancer survivor sitting right next to him is like if he wanted to get out there
with the mask off,
and he stayed away from everybody. Yeah, that would be one thing.
Yeah,
that's not what he did. And he's sitting right next to his manager, who's a cancer survivor. That seems very selfish to me.
I put up a Twitter poll, and there's still time to vote if you'd like to.
I voted it.
I bet you did.
Took my 6-shooter out. My head tapped it.
What did you vote for?
voted for the second from last one. What was that? The
Small fine under $50,000. Yeah, I said, what should the punishment be? 1 year suspension, 30-game suspension plus a fine, small fine under $50,000, or none, let him celebrate. And there's still time to vote, but 32.4% say no punishment, let him celebrate. 31%, which is what I said, now it's down to 30.6%, say 30-game suspension plus a fine. 20.8% say suspended for a year, and then 16.7% agree with you, small fine under $50K.
Yeah, well, I didn't, nothing against your poll there, partner, but I liked the last one, none, like I said, but I didn't want to see, I don't think he should have been out there celebrating, but I don't think that Major League Baseball, what he did was something that he's just going to have to live with, and we'll find out, maybe he was just like, maybe he's the smart one. Maybe that,
No.
nothing's going to happen and everything's all good.
Well,
and,
let me ask you about this, because I think there are two other entities that deserve blame, not as much as him. But I think that Major League Baseball deserves blame, because why did it take so long to get these test results? You're a multi-billion-dollar industry, and you test these folks on a Monday, and then you don't get the results until game time on a Tuesday, and that's because they have to be shipped out to Utah. You're telling me that there's no place in Texas, particularly in the Dallas area, but no place in Texas where they could be shipped and you could have the results later that day in a few hours as opposed to the next day. And then they expedited the Tuesday tests and they found out that they confirmed that he had coronavirus. It should not have taken that long, because meanwhile, the rest of the day on Monday and Tuesday, he's giving folks coronavirus. And if they had been able to get those results instantly, it would have saved Justin Turner from embarrassing himself, and it would have saved Major League Baseball from perhaps the embarrassment of what would have happened if there was a Game 7 when there could have been an outbreak by then. And I also think that MLB security deserves blame, because they took him to a room for isolation, and he wanted to leave and celebrate, and they didn't stop him. The statement said, when MLB security raised the manner of being on the field with Turner, he emphatically refused to comply. When in the world does security or law enforcement officials just say, well, you don't want us to comply, you got to, you could do something dangerous, we're just going to let you. Like, if you want to
do
go...
you want them to draw their gun, shoot them in the back?
Tackle him! Block him from getting out on the field. And if he tries to get through, act like a real security guard. Tackle him, hog time, which is what you would do because you're Sheriff Fithian. But whatever, if I'm a prisoner and I want to get out and I refuse to comply, I can't just walk out. If I want to rob a bank and they have security, I can't just walk into the vault and take money and refuse to comply. How come he was allowed to refuse to comply? If you're security, do your job. Law and order, as Trump would say.
I'd have pulled my badge out and whooped him. You're right. That's what I would have done.
All right.
All right. 1 year suspension, 21.9 ATM. Hit that poll and vote. That's from Paul there. As we now move ahead to our next chapter.
The fourth chapter.
Yeah, where are we at? Oh, this is the big Lions game. We got the Lions coming up. They've won 2 in a row. They pull even. They're 500. They make the big trade this week to get Everson Griffin, and now they're entertaining the Indianapolis Colts coming up Sunday at Ford Field. Chap, what's the question here? Are you rooting for the Lions? Is that where we're at?
Well, yeah, I think it is, because when they were 1-3, a lot of fans said, "Hey, we just need to lose if we can just." Or I'm sorry, when they were 0-2, hey, if we can just keep on losing, then they can fire Patricia and Quinn. And then they won their one game, and then they lost to get to 1-3, and folks saying, all right, just lose a couple more and we can get them out. But now they're sitting at 500, and I think that there are a lot of Lions fans wondering, well, should I root for them to win or to lose? And I think that there's probably going to be a torn fan base, because the Colts are a good team. Not a great team, but a good team at 4-2, plus 42-point differential. They got the Allie Cox injury and the Darius Leonard injury, but not a heck of a lot of injuries on this team. So not that injuries could be used as an excuse if the Colts lose. And if you win this game to make it 3 in a row, you got a winning record at 4-3, and you're feeling good about your team as a fan. That's how you want to feel. And suddenly it doesn't look like you're going to go on that 4-game losing streak after Thanksgiving if you have a winning record at this point. But you know that Patricia's a terrible coach. You know the talent isn't that good. And eventually it's going to show its face. And you know the best way to get rid of Quinn and Patricia is to lose. And a loss on Sunday puts you one step closer to to starting that rebuild again. So I would root for a loss, but I'll say this. Sunday's game is going to go a long way to determining rooting interest for the rest of the season. Because if the Lions get to 4-3, then there's really no question about it. Even if you think the bottom's going to fall out, you have to hope it doesn't, and hope that this winning team on a 3-game winning streak keeps on winning and tries to get to the playoffs. But if you lose and you're 3-4, you're likely dropping to the 11 seed because Carolina is likely going to beat the Falcons tonight to move ahead of the Lions in the standings. And then it's time to resume rooting for losses. You can't go from the 11 seed in the first week of November to a wild card berth.
Yeah, you know what? I rooted against them and picked against them against Jacksonville. I wanted it all to be over. I thought that was the clearest path. I thought there was a chance that could happen. I thought if they got embarrassed last week against the Falcons, which I anticipated happening, I thought that there was a chance that they would have got fired. But, they won that game in miraculous fashion, thanks to Todd Gurley and, thanks to the nice drive there by Stafford. That was at least fun to watch. But you know what? At this point, getting Everson Griffin, if I could just pick right now what I would want, I think the ceiling for the Lions, it feels like this new 7th seed, and like that feels very Lion-esque, like something to shoot for. Like, we got dreams of a 7th seed heading on the road, taking on Tampa or Green Bay or Seattle. I don't think they could win that game, but that's what they have to do. Like, if I'm Sheila Ford, I know she said playoff contention, but you know what? That was before we had a 7th seed, and she can do whatever she wants. But I'll tell you what, if this team somehow gets to the playoffs, I don't think that's going to happen, but that's what I would like to see happen because I like being entertained.
Yeah.
I don't want to root against the Lions every damn game like I seem like I have for the last, for most of my life. It gets to the point where I root more against them than for them, and I'm supposed to be a fan. I hate it. I would like for them to actually make the playoffs. Do I think they can win the NFC North? No, there's no way I think they can do that. Do I think they could get a 7 seed? Probably not, but
No.
But I don't think getting a 7 seed should be any kind of justification, to keep Patricia and to keep Bob Quinn. You know what? If they want to be kept around, they need to go out there and shock the world and win a playoff game. They do that, and then we can at least start thinking about it. But that sounds like a miracle. So,
well,
I don't know. I don't think they're going to win this Sunday. Having said all of that, I don't think they're going to beat the Colts.
Well, they have to at least win 10 games because if you remember, 9 wins is a fireable offense. That's what got Jim Caldwell fired. So
yeah, well, I don't know. Like,
there's a lower standard if your BFF is the head coach. We know that when it comes to Bob Quinn. If you're Jim Caldwell, you got 3 winning seasons in 4 years, 2 playoffs in 4 years. Well, then you better win playoff games, double-digit wins and all that, or else you're out. But if you're the BFF of the head coach, a 9-game losing streak, no big deal. No big deal. Stay around. 3-12-1. No big deal. Come on back. Come over to the barbecue tonight. I know you'll eat all the food. Come on now. It's a joke. That's what's going on. I think the Colts are going to win too. The one opening that I do see is that the defense for the Lions has been pretty good the last couple of weeks. Rivers has been averaging only 267 per game.
He sucks.
And he's thrown an interception per game. 6 interceptions in 6 games. The wide receivers aren't that great. Only 2 wideouts have more than 10 catches this year for the Colts. So, and the Lions have been using more zone. I can't see Phillip Rivers with his sorry arm fitting, rockets into small windows with this Lions zone. So that's the opportunity to win, but it's not going to work. The Lions are going to lose this game and be 3-4, and they'll be well on their way to tanking to a low top 10 pick, but not high enough to really salivate the Lions fan base.
Yeah, the one thing Rivers, you're right about, he's just got a noodle now, and they got a really
an
good
al
offensive
dente
line,
noodle.
though. Yeah, they got a really good offensive line. I expect a big day from Jonathan Taylor, and yeah, you know what, this has loss written all over it to me. All right, we do have a question from Paul, who says if the Lions let Stafford go next season, do they get a compensation pick?
I'm not sure how compensation picks work, but I don't think he's good enough to get a compensation pick.
No, you get compensatory picks when you have a guy that's a free agent and another team signs him. That's how compensatory picks work.
Yeah,
Stafford's still signed for a couple more years, so they're not letting him go. They would The only thing that the Lions could, they're not cutting him. I mean,
Yeah.
so they would have to trade him, which is possible.
Then they get trade picks back. They wouldn't get compensatory picks back.
Correct. Yeah, it's not compensation, but they could get some picks back via trade. Of course, if you're dealing Matt Stafford, you'd expect to get something in the offseason. If they do that, it's going to be a big cap hit, and you would be looking towards drafting a rookie at that point. But if you're picking 10 right now, you're not getting a shot at Lawrence. We know that. You're not getting a shot at Justin Fields. We know that. You're not getting a shot at Trey Lance. You might get who's the quarterback in Florida? Trask.
Yeah, Kyle Trask.
That could be the. Does that make you feel?
Well,
Kyle Trask.
Based on his last name, I think it'd be very quick. It'd be a very short period of time before he starts throwing interceptions, and Lions fans start calling him Kyle Trash.
Well, I mean, that's the kind of QB that you're talking about if you're moving on from Stafford. That's why a lot of people are like, well, let's just go ahead and keep Matt around. He at least makes it interesting. So, yeah, I'm picking the Colts too. Chap, what's the line of that game? 3.5? 2.5?
I believe it's 3.5. 3 to 3.5. Yep. Yeah, I think the Colts will win and cover.
I'm picking the Colts.
Let's turn the page to the fifth chapter, and that takes us to the major wager. More opportunities to bet, make you guys a little bit of money. Dennis, what are you looking at this weekend?
Well, I've been doing great. Like, I wish I've said this every single time. Here we are in the 50th episode, and we haven't bet every single show, but when we have, I'm plus 675. So, nice job by me. But I'm doing what gamblers shouldn't do. I'm not managing my payroll. I'm shooting the moon here. I got 200 on the Bills minus 3.5 against the Pats. That number might be going up because I saw Julian Edelman.
It's 4 now.
Yeah, well, I got it at 3.5.
Yep.
On Tuesday. I'm looking to the Browns. I bet the Browns have been good to me this year. I know they lost OBJ, but you know what? Higgins and DPJ maybe can do a good impersonation of OBJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I like the Browns minus 2.5 this weekend.
All right, well, Tuesday I picked the Rays to win, and obviously I was wrong because the Dodgers and their coronavirus third baseman won the World Series, had that big coronavirus party afterwards. The only game on tonight is Falcons at Panthers. Panthers are a 1.5 favorite, and I like the Panthers. I think the Panthers are a decent team, and the Falcons are terrible. Their 4 losses have come to some good teams. The Falcons are not good. They're not great. They can't even beat the same old Lions at home. So the Panthers are going to win and cover. Tomorrow, I like Minnesota minus 19.5 at Maryland because Maryland is the only team that's going to compete with the Spartans for the worst team in the conference. I like Michigan State minus 24 or Michigan minus 24.5 against Michigan State. And Sunday, I like your Bills pick, Bills minus 4 against the Patriots.
All right, that's a good one. Here's my pick for the big game.
Whoa!
You know what? I went with this one because in 2016, I got a big fat steak, 78% off down in Ann Arbor. They were running a bill, whatever Michigan won by over Rutgers in 2016. You were going to get that discount at this steakhouse. I got 78% off there. And you know what? Since Rutgers turned the trick on Michigan State, I'm looking for a 79-0 score coming up on Saturday.
Well, will the Penn State-Ohio State game be any closer than that?
Yeah, I think 20. Let's see. I was going to say 20-10, but that would have Penn State cover. 20-10 is what popped in my head. 20-10. Take the Nittany Lions and the points. Chap, I screwed up here. I washed my cup here, my fifth chapter cup, and on the bottom you can see
there's nothing there.
I'm going to have to redo it, even though it was permanent marker. And I went and I was writing over there, and I made an adjustment. I don't know if you can understand what all that is. Can you tell?
Oh, yes, I can see that you got the score. Yeah.
And I was trying to write IU over there, but I kind of ran out. I'm not a very good drawer.
No, that's not your forte.
I feel like this should be an old, now with my cowboy head, I feel like this should be an old metal container.
Yeah, like, because they just got like a metal tin can, and then they just kind of drink out of an old
fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Put her on over the fire. All right, that's going to do it. Show 50 in the books. Happy Halloween. We'll be back Tuesday. We'll talk all about the big weekend, the backyard brawl, and if the Lions are above 500 or below. For Brian Chapman, I'm Dennis Fithian. Thanks for watching. This is the 5th chapter. Yeah. See ya.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, but people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the 5th chapter. Huh. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spitting the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the 5th chapter. Huh.